And it's a great character study too. I love how, you know, we kind of set up this guy. We don't really quite know exactly where this is going, like throughout the whole thing, and it's really kind of an interesting journey to take with him. I also found it very interesting in certain scenes, like what you don't show, and you leave more to the imagination. You know, certain scenes, like especially in the scene with his partner, which to me that's infinitely more horrifying than showing us what's going to happen to him. Is not knowing and having him race to it. Was a lot of that kind of predetermined in your mind in terms of how you were going to shoot this and how you were going to set up those shots?
Yeah, because we always wanted to stay with the guy if we could. We always wanted to stay with Roberto Sosa's character, Patriero. So if something was happening elsewhere, then we weren't going to see it because he was the Patriero. We were always going to stay with him if we could. And the same thing applies with the scene where he shoots the rabid dog. Because they were always winding me up, the crew as well. The prop guy, when we were going to do the rabid dog scene, the prop guy comes to me and he says, okay, we have 3 dogs, you have 3 takes. And I go, we're not going to shoot the dog. You know, yeah, we've got 3 dogs, we've got 3 takes. So,
that's the difference between shooting down there and shooting over here.
We weren't going to shoot the dog, really. But that was the sort of the level of the discourse. You know, I was always having the rise taken out, and rightly so.
Did any of you guys spot Alex in the film?
Yes.
Anybody right over here? Where was Alex in the film?
They were around the truck, and he kind of come in, looked like he's holding something.
No, that wasn't me. I'm in the bar.
He is a cowboy hat wearing gringo at the bar.
And I've got a T-shirt or something or a shirt that says "Viva Mexico" on the back, and I'm the partner of the drug dealer who gives them the beer.
I know it was obscure. I didn't know if anybody was going to get it, but still, it was. Now that's kind of fun too, because you're really kind of the only, I guess, non-Hispanic face in the movie, or one of the few in terms of like.
Me and the crowd, me and Charlie,
yeah.
Carl Brown, the main number 1 gringo.
Now I'd asked you just a second ago about the length of the shoot. You said it was about 7 weeks. It seems to me like logistically this would be a difficult film to shoot, just because you're dealing with a completely different language and crew, and you know, things are very much out of your element. I would think that it would make it a little bit more challenging to shoot something like this.
The good thing is, though, you know, it's like, because film is a collaborative activity. You know, that's what's so much fun about it. It's not just one guy alone, you know, or one woman all by herself. You know, it's like a whole bunch of people participated in the process. And so we had the casting people, we had location people, we had extras people. I just had to show up, you know, and everything was prepared in this wonderful way. You know, so no, it was a breeze to shoot. It's not so hard to shoot a movie if you have a good crew. And a good cast.
And also, can you share the story that you told me about the iguana kids? Because that's great. Buy my iguanas, those kids.
Those kids, originally we were going to have some kids, actor kids from Mexico City, play the iguana kids. But they weren't available for the first scene, so we got these like real kids from the country to come and play the iguana kids. And then we thought, well, they're great, we don't need the actor kids. We'll just use them again. But because we were moving around a lot, you know, traveling from different state to state, we needed to have the kids kind of brought to us from wherever they were. We were in Chihuahua, we were in Torreon, or whatever. So the casting, the extras casting guy, Rene Maruri, showed up one day when the kids were due to work, and he just had the kids with him. They had no parent, no guardian. And he gave us the kids and he left. And this was like for a week, we were going to have these kids. And we were like, what are we going to do with these kids? You know, so we were all staying in a motel, right? So we got the kids a room in the motel, you know, with a big bed, television, you know, we love it, you know. And they were like, they were kids from the country, you know. I mean, they hadn't been in a motel before, or had their own bathroom and you know, and their own television and stuff. So they wanted to watch television, so we put television on for them, you know, and said goodnight, you know. And then Joe Dante's Gremlins came on television, and they were really scared. So like about half an hour later, I and my then wife, who was the production designer, Cecilia Montiel, we got a knock on the door of our room. We open the door, and these 3 kids are in the corridor. And they're afraid to sleep in their room because of the gremlins. So we got the pillows from their room, the extra pillows off our bed, put all the pillows on the floor, and the kids slept on the floor of our room for a week. And I mean, and it sounded, you know, it could be such a perverse and criminal and weird thing, but nobody thought that. just go, hey, they're all right, they're nice people, they're movie people, we trust them, so we'll give them our kids for a week. And that was the kind of the nature of the film. I mean, that was the good energy of the film, is that really we were lucky, nothing bad happened. Everything went well, everybody was happy, we all finished the film friends, and it was great. Yeah.
I'm going to take a couple questions from the audience. Think if you have a question and you want to ask it, just be thinking about that. I am curious, how did the people of Mexico respond to this movie after they saw it?
I think it did okay. I think it did. Normally, when you do a Mexican distribution, you start in the capital city and then you go wide. But there was a big dispute going on between the cinema owners and the government about a thing called the Ley de Cine, the law of the cinema, because what they wanted to do was to bring in American films, essentially, dubbed in Spanish, and up until that point, that was against the law. When American films were shown in Mexico, they had to be subtitled. Partially, I think that was like a kind of literacy thing to encourage people to read, but it was also a way of prioritizing the Mexican cinema over the English language cinema. And so there was a fight between the distributors and the exhibitors and the government, as a result of which the film began in the provinces and then came to Mexico City, which was entirely the wrong way to do a distribution. So it did okay. It got a good, it had a great cast. The actors were very popular. The film did all right, but it didn't have, say, the film that came out a few months later, directed by what's the name of that? The Laura Esquivel movie, the one like Water for Chocolate. It didn't have quite the big success like Water for Chocolate. Partially it's a different film as well. It's not so romantic. But I think it did all right. I think they liked it. Yeah. So.
I think it's a terrific film. I think it's really a great character piece. Does anybody have a question they want to ask Alex while we got him up here to talk about this film specifically? Anybody? Nobody? Oh, wait. Oh, right there.
Was there anything that made you go to Mexico and start shooting movies there? Was it a business decision, or was it a fascination with the country?
Well, when I came to the States, I was at school at UCLA in Los Angeles, and so on my vacations, I would go to Mexico. I would go down to California, or Guaymas, places in northern Mexico, and I was just really into it. I liked it a lot, and so I just kept going. And then Lorenzo produced and I directed this film Walker, which played last night. And after we did Walker, and then we're trying to get other films on in Los Angeles, and we realized we're not going to get to make any more films here. And so then we had to go find somewhere else to work. And the good thing was, because a lot of Mexicans, including some of the actors in this film, had worked on Walker, and some of the crew people, they were very enthusiastic about Walker. And so I got a very good reception in Mexico. I was kind of welcomed as a director and also as an actor. And so I had a great time for about 10 years, working in Mexico as a director and an actor. And there's a film, I don't know if anybody here has seen a film called La Ley de Herodes, Herod's Law, directed by Luis Estrada. But if you have a chance to see that, you can probably find a video of it, or you can find it on the internet or something, because it's quite a film. And it stars a bunch of these actors, has a very good director, and it's about not police corruption in Mexico, but political corruption in Mexico. So it's kind of like a counterpoint to this film. It's a really good movie, set in the 1940s, and I was an actor in that film. So I had a very good time in Mexico. I was made very welcome there.
Probably do one more question, right? Well, we'll do you two right there. We'll start with you right here. Yes, you.
Oh, hi. It's such an honor to see you, Mr.
Oh, it's an honor to be here.
I'm just curious. I've seen some really. I feel like there's such a great thing going on right now in Mexico. I'm just curious if you have any opinion, or if you've been following kind of the explosion in cinema in Mexico right now, and just I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the overall scene.
I'm not hip to what's going on in Mexico now. I was very knowledgeable 10, 15 years ago about the industry, but it's all changed now. A new generation has come along. A bunch of the guys that were involved in this film, like the casting director and some of the actors, people that were my friends, they're all dead, so it keeps changing. But it's, I mean, I'm just so glad it is changing, and I'm so glad it is continuing, and that the industry is still afloat, you know, because it's hard when you're right next door to the biggest, most powerful media nation in the world. You know, it's really hard to keep your separate identity, you know. So I'm just very pleased that it is continuing, you know. But I'm not knowledgeable about what's going on in Mexico.
Yeah, you should check it out.
Yeah, I should.
And then right behind her, yes, Susan.
Yeah, just in general, showing the way that you just showed kind of the casual corruption of the police and the federals and the way they're involved in the drug trade to some extent. Did you get any official resistance, or do you think you could make that same kind of movie today in Mexico?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question about the official response. Because the Highway Patrol at that time was still in existence, it actually got closed down because of corruption. At that point, the Highway Patrol was a functioning, kind of completely separate corporate entity, you know, that existed according to its own rules. And the Highway Patrol could have closed the movie down completely because we had to be on the highway in order to go make the movie. So we had to make a kind of a deal with the Highway Patrol. And what happened was that Lorenzo, the producer, and Alejandro Lisiaga, the production manager, you know, she dressed up very sexy, Lorenzo dressed up very smart with a tie, and they went to meet the heads of the Highway Patrol, who went by code names, Dragon and Tauro. And they had a meeting with Dragon and Tauro. And these were like guys just like in the movie, you know, just like the guy who plays the head of the corporation in our film. They were very macho, with big chests, you know, and they just interrogated Lorenzo. You know, did he have problems with his father? Was he a homosexual? Why did he want to make a film like this? It was completely untrue. They said, you know, I mean, we have no problems with, you know, there are no instances of corruption or domestic violence, and when there are, we have a special psychiatric division to deal with it. And so they had a great conversation, and that, of course, created for us the scene where Pedro gets sent to the psychiatrist. They told us, you know, how they worked it, you know, and so Lorenzo wrote that scene on the basis of their meeting, and it was interesting because there was a younger guy in the office who was kind of like the terrier, who was really mad about the script and really didn't want the film to get made, you know. But the more he would interrogate Lorenzo and Alejandra, the more the other cops, Dragon and Tauro, would go, well, you know, that's right. You know, my father didn't want me to be a highway patrolman. And Dragon would go, no, you know, and my father didn't want me to either. He wanted me to go work in the factory, you know, but I wanted to be a policeman, you know. I want to be here. And so by the end of the meeting, you know, they had reached an accommodation where essentially we would create our own police force. So all of the police cars, all of the uniforms, all of the badges are our invention. We created an alternative highway patrol, which didn't have anything to do with their highway patrol, except it was exactly the same. And they were happy with that. And there's a line in the film that Guys Jr. says, when they go into the bar, and the guy, they ask for a bottle of tequila, and they've just been to the funeral of Anibal, and the barman goes, oh, we only serve single glasses here, you know. And Pedro gets really mad, and the senior officer, played by Pedro Mendes Jr., says, please make an exception in this case. And that is my motto. Because as filmmakers, we're always told you can't do this, you can't do that, you don't have enough money for that, you don't have permission to do this. As any kind of artist, we're constantly being told we can't do things. And the great joy of it is to be able to make an exception in this case. And so that's what I always say when people say to me, you know, you absolutely can't do it, it's not permitted. I just go, well, please make an exception in this case. And it usually works. One way or another, it usually works.
All right, so here's